Night had fallen, and the forest was as silent as ever. With the air growing colder, Elif took another step, continuing down the narrow forest path. She only had a small flashlight, its light flickering weakly as it illuminated the dark trail ahead. Having gotten lost in the evening, she had chosen this desolate path to find her way home. However, with each step, strange sounds from deep within the forest began to unsettle her. After a while, Elif sensed that something was wrong. It felt as though someone was following her. She took a deep breath and wanted to look behind her, but couldn't muster the courage. She quickened her pace, trying to shake the uneasy feeling. Then, suddenly, her flashlight went out, and everything around her went completely dark. Panicking, she pulled out her phone, but the screen was frozen. Frantically, she tried to turn it back on, but that's when she heard a rustling noise behind her. Elif's heart started racing. At that moment, she was sure someone was right behind her. She started running. As she sprinted, strange whispers filled the air, all seeming to call her name. Elif, Elif, the voices were so close that she nearly felt someone standing just behind her. At that moment, a graveyard appeared at the end of the path. Hidden in the depths of the forest, the cemetery looked like it had been abandoned for years. But Elif had never seen it before. This was a place that didn't exist on any map. She had no intention of entering, but there was no escape from this eerie place. With trembling steps, she walked toward the graveyard. The whispers grew louder as she moved through the cemetery. It was as if the graves themselves were calling to her. Among the headstones, she stopped in front one in particular. The name on the tombstone sent a chill down her spine. It read, Elif, January 14th, 1980, January 14th, 2025. Elif couldn't believe her eyes. How could this be possible? At that moment, she realized she wasn't alone in the cemetery. Slowly, she turned around, and from the dark corners, hundreds of eyes were staring at her. All of them were dead. The whispers grew louder, and one by one, the gravestones began to shift. The spirits of the deceased were slowly moving toward her. Panicked, she started to run again, but no matter how fast she moved, she couldn't seem to leave the graveyard. Suddenly, from the depths of the cemetery, a shadow emerged, and Elif heard her name whispered once more. This time, it was far too close, Elif. Turning quickly, she saw the figure's face a face that had decayed into nothing but a skeleton. The shadow moved toward her, and with one last desperate effort, Elif collapsed against a tombstone. At that moment, all light vanished, everything went dark, and the inscription on the gravestone disappeared. The next morning, a hunter found Elif, but on the gravestone where she had been, there was no name. The story ends here. On the day Elif disappeared, the graveyard was abandoned forever. But still, those who wander the forest, when they hear a whisper in the dark, might hear her name once more.